think that's a really good point, Luke. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize and don't touch on is they'll get a personal trainer, they'll get a nutritionist, they'll get someone to help them learn how to code, learn a new skill. And then when a lot of people go to buy and sell property, unfortunately, what they do is they go to the real estate agent and ask them for help, not realizing that the real estate agent they're talking to, what's in their best interest is selling them a house. They don't care if it's a good investment. They don't care about any of that. The people don't realize that. And I think finding someone to help you in the journey of real estate is actually incredibly important, because for most people, it's the biggest thing they're ever going to buy in their life.
Yes, and the return on investment difference between having the right people on your side there is incredible. And you're right, you're with a really good real estate agent when they make you feel like they're working just for you and you're the only thing that matters to them, right? So, but real estate agents, they've got two sides of their story, right? And like you said, selling property is the key thing for them, or getting a property to sell, and they're working both teams.
Yeah, right? I have to shyly put my hand up there, Luke, and say I used to train people how to do that.
Yep.
And myself and my guys were really good at that. Yeah. But on that same vein, what was thinking back to the first time you purchased a property, what were some of the pain points and some of the things that was difficult for you to move through that process?
First one's buying something too high. We didn't negotiate how we should have or could have, but that comes through lack of experience, right? We're doing it on our own, and that was a critical first mistake, because if you're buying something today at next year's prices or 2 years ahead, and you're missing that growth or that equity that could be yours to purchase another property in a couple of years or whatever that looks like. So it starts right from the start with those initial negotiations, and buying that first property, if you do it right and get your best return on investment, that can set you up.
Yeah. And how about through the process, through the contractual process and the conveyancing and the solicitors, was there anything in that you found challenging the first time? Like, take your mind back to the first time you're doing it and the stresses of that, realizing that I've just got, et cetera, $50,000 in my bank account. I've just transferred that to a real estate agent. What's going on?
Yeah, it's really overwhelming. I think to the point where the contract and all that was just a bit of a blur. It's more, you're more focused on the lump sum going out that very first time. And the process is what it is as far as the contract and conveyancing and everything goes. We were, I guess, a bit fortunate there. We had a pretty good conveyancer, and we never really had any hiccups or hurdles or major things happen. But it was more for us, the learnings and mistakes made were just the power of negotiation at the start, but then also through the couple of renovations we did and things like that. Once again, working with the right people could have made a big difference. Like, I think we spent a lot and did a lot that really didn't make a big difference at the end of the day to the overall price that it was sold for. So it's really being able to prioritize, one, get the best price you can for that initial investment, and then if you are renovating or doing something like that, being very careful with selecting what you actually do and what you're spending money on. Especially if you're using it as an investment and looking to flip it. Obviously, if it's a family home, you're looking long term, it's a little bit different, but not so much either, because things change. Yeah. So, you might think you're going to keep it for 20 years, but in 3 years, you're in a different position and you're going to sell and move on, or whatever that is. And those things that you've done to the house can make a big difference.
I think that's incredibly important. I've got a little story, an example regarding this. I've got someone that I trust that I rang 2 or 3 days ago. I'm doing a property development and I'm keeping the existing house, and there's a kitchen in the house. And I've got a friend of mine who he's a professional kitchen installer. and he makes a bunch of money installing kitchens for people. And I trust him when I rang him up and I said, look, I don't understand specifically what the end consumers are looking for in this area. Could I please have your professional advice? And what I instructed him was, how can I put in $1 and get $3 out? So then what he did, he took me through the process, and I videoed going through the kitchen, and he said, honestly, Jeromie, just paint it, use these colors, paint it. I can charge you 30 grand. You probably get 30 grand more for the house, but it's just at the end of the day, you're not going to get more money out of it. And having the network, who you can trust, and also that sort of professional expertise, I think is crucially important.
That's a great example, because everything, especially now in the last few years, we've seen hikes in prices of everything, and it's really hard to get a return on investment. What's the point of having a brand new kitchen or bathroom or whatever if you're only going to get back what it costs to do it? and they're things that you actually, that's another area, and especially with our first one, that you're not thinking about and should be. Because what's the point, unless like you're obviously planning on living there for a long time at your house or at your home. But coming back to investment, they're really important questions that a lot of people don't think through thoroughly enough.
Yeah, I think with investment, also housing specifically, what beginners don't understand as well is when you start taking down walls and when you start making renovations, you can find things. You can find things that you then now need to fix. And that 30 grand kitchen turns into $100,000 because you found rot, you found this, you found that. And that's something where I agree with you. You really need expert help in the biggest financial decision you're ever going to make with your life.
Renovating's like opening up a can of worms. Every time you do something, there's something else to be done. I know it because I was also a carpenter for about 15 years, back in my late teens and early 20s, and through that period. And I saw lots of renovations and lots of unhappy people with blown out budgets. So it's not as easy as the TV shows point out and make
we've
out
all watched The
sometimes.
Block. What do you mean? You just call the tradie and go, put a wall there, new kitchen, bench top. Isn't that how it works, right? Like,
yeah, no. I think looking back on what we did, and anything we do in the future will be done with a team of people who know and can offer that expert advice, because that's what's, at the end of the day, you pay a little bit more perhaps initially, but at the end of the day, your return on investment much higher. You're going to win.
Yeah. Sorry, Jason.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got an additional option for anyone out there. How about you find a professional team where they've got the skills and the experience and the knowledge, and they maybe not necessarily have enough money to do the deals that they can do. You find someone like that and you get them, and then you give them money to do the deal, and then at the end of the deal you share the profits. That way you're doing both. You're doing the investing and you're also leveraging experience with a team who know what they're doing, and that's all they do. That's also very important. They do one thing, which is that. Yep. So it happens that's something that we offer.
Well, I was going to say one thing. I think the thing that you've highlighted over and over is just finding the right people and having the right advisors, and like that's been a consistent theme that's come up. Finding the right network, getting good advice, and even what you said just now, like not even thinking about it as paying more, but seeing what the return on your investment is for having the right advice, for having the right advisors.
Especially with property investment, because it's a more traditional and longer term investment. It's not like stocks and shares, crypto, which can be long term, obviously, but property's different, and it brings along its own set of challenges that you need to face. And Jeromie, I'm interested in hearing more, like especially now, like I've been through and experienced what I have, and the pain in paying too much, blowing out renovation budgets or spending money on things that you don't need to, and all of that thing. So the next time I'm looking for a property and it's purely investment and I'm wanting to maximize my return on investment, what would like the first steps be for me, not necessarily in my area because it's an investment, it doesn't need to be here. What would you suggest?
I'd suggest what I would do personally is reach out to my personal network and then find some people who are offering that as a service and a business. Then I would go through their history and vet what they have done. Then I would have a look at what their system is, ask them, what are you doing to make money and what are you doing to provide your customers with a return? We can go a bit deeper. I would ask, what's the security provided for the investment? Maybe that's for another day. It's a bit more complex. Then what I'd do is I'd get their system and I'd ask them to write it out. I'd have a look at it, or I would detail it down somewhere and then go find someone that's experienced in that field and show that to them and ask them, what do you think of this? That's what I would do in that regard. And then ask that person's advice and then accumulate all that information and then make a decision myself personally. And then also, if the person has good ethics and morals and I like the way they're doing business, then I would agree and then I'd sign the paperwork and do business with them.
Yeah, because that's super important, isn't it? Especially, once again, something like property, larger investment. And it's really one of the battles is as well, which we haven't touched on yet, buying a property, it's very hard to control your emotions. You get emotionally attached, right? Even if, we're buying investment properties, it wasn't something we were necessarily planning on living in, but it still kicks in. And that's probably the biggest struggle through the process now, looking back on it and coming to think on it a bit more. What would you say to that? And do you have any advice there? Because that can be a killer. And once again, I believe it comes down to, and correct me if I'm wrong, working with the right people in that area are going to help keep that under control and keep you focused on the most important things and the highest priorities through the process, right?
Well, on that, and something that I'm revealing some industry secrets here, the main tool of an auction is actually to heighten people's emotions so they spend more than they would on a negotiating table. That's it. That's the purpose of it. And then what happens is, after the auction's finished, they've got, the industry have reasons for it, but after the auction's finished, you're locked in. You've put your hand up. There's no cooling off period. That's it. That's because the purpose of the auction heighten the emotions, get people into an emotional state, get people to love the house first, and then bid with their emotions and then lock them in. Just lock them down and hold them down. So in regards to that, I think the best thing you can do if you're looking to purchase a property and you're looking to make a certain return, you can utilize a buyer's agent. And also, alternatively, to remove that aspect is to find someone who can do it for you and invest with them and then have them make those sort of decisions for you and carry you through the process. That way that you've eliminated the emotionality of it because you found someone that's all they do. They do it for a business and they do it full time. So they're not emotional about this. They do this every day. And that way you're insulating yourself from the traps in the real estate game while also exposing yourself, like trading terms, you're exposing yourself to all the upside and you're minimizing the downside to such a small degree that trade then becomes a no-brainer.
There's your difference, right? And to me, as a future investor in property, would make the biggest difference if I'm looking to learn from previous mistakes and learnings and the challenges that we faced. It would go a long way.
Yeah.
Wanted to ask like a question, like zooming out a little bit, because you guys are in a particular context, and I know, Luke, you're trying to now achieve and scale the mountain with some ambitious goals, like for you, for your family, and yet the context in a lot of the West or in Australia where you are is that there's big inflation, rising cost of living, real estate's, quite expensive, almost unaffordable. So in zooming out a little bit, how does that fit into, your why about whether it's going into real estate or like growing your business, to get to those goals that you're trying to get to? Because it seems like now it's a bit more difficult to just have a direct input output with, just working your job. You need some vehicle like a real estate, investing in real estate, or a business that's growing. Talk to us a little bit about your, like, why you're going down this road.
Definitely investing to some degree with some vehicle is essential. You need to have that, I believe, and whether you're an employee or an employer, whether you've got a small business, got a large business, I believe investing is a critical thing to do. And property, once again, it's been around. You've got people there and you've got experts there that you can work with, where you can set a longer term plan, and that can take a lot of pressure off in the short term. You don't need to, be stressing day in, day out about this particular investment, because you're looking, 10, 15, 20 years out. And in some cases now you're thinking more multi-generational with property investments, and that's where it's going. I know that's, in some countries that's been the thing for quite some time as well, right? So it's a longer term view, and that can be very beneficial. One of the most beneficial things about property is the longer term view, and the once you've made the right decision and you've done the right things to build up and maximize the equity in the property and its value, you can sit back and concentrate on your business or advancing your career or another investment vehicle. That one's just doing its thing. It's bringing in income if it's being rented out, for example, or it's just, long-term capital growth, whatever that looks like. There's options there, and I like it because you have that ability to let it do its thing so that you can focus on the other areas.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So to expand on that, Luke, I think there's a misconception in the industry that people think that it has to be stressful or it's going to be stressful. I believe if you do what we were speaking about before and find someone that can manage it for you and do it for you, you can take your time, effort, energy. Like, let's be honest, why do people go to work? Why do people start businesses? Why do people make money? It's to give themselves options. So, and they also have a misconception that it has to be difficult. I'd say ideal strategy is to take your energy, make some money, save some money up, find someone or a vehicle that can put that in where that money can then multiply. Then what they can do is they can keep doing their business. They can keep doing what they're doing before, except what they have now is they have an alternative wealth creation vehicle working in the background where they're putting almost zero effort into it. That can be a reality, and that can be a possibility for anyone without stress.
Exactly. I mean, once you get over the initial emotion of the investment that you're putting out initially, but once again, if there's a roadmap and a clear picture and direction of what the return on investment or expected return on investment is down the track, that takes that pressure off even that initial investment as well, right? Because it becomes that just an investment that's going to make me money over a period of time. And in property, it's almost guaranteed, isn't it? It's as guaranteed as you're getting an investment. So
and I think that's where it comes down to when you're finding people to do this with. Ask them, what have you done previously? Very important. What did you promise the end consumer, and then what did you deliver? Because what you're doing then is you're establishing a history of performance from that person, and that's going to lower your risk and also help you feel at ease with what's going to happen moving forward.
Yeah, definitely.
I really like how you guys touched on the pressure and the relief component, because essentially it's reframing, your situation, your life, to think about just fortifying your position, making your position stronger through having a stronger team around you, a stronger network around you, a stronger vehicle, like where your money's working for you strongly, versus being in a weak position where you're just going solo, or operating as a lone wolf and very exposed to the harsh nature of reality. And I think it ties back into what you were saying at the very beginning, which is it is self accountability and self realization and personal responsibility, but that doesn't mean working alone and working as a lone wolf and solo. It actually is then having that mindset, but working with the right people to solidify your position, which ironically takes the pressure off, which allows you to also work on the many things you need to work on. But you've just got more working for you as you put in your inputs, their leveraged outputs. And I think that's a really unique difference, a real 30,000 foot view mindset, or a reframe to have about going forward. Like you said, Luke, anybody could change their life, in a short space of time. It just requires a few smart changes, a few smart decisions.
And that includes being around the right people at the right time for the direction you're going, and that's just a part of making better decisions along the way too. If you're working with the right people for what you're trying to achieve in a certain area, whether it's, on a personal level or an investment level, property as an example, you need the expert advice. You need to be around people who are going to give you that advice in a non-biased way and who are on your side. And that's super important, right? And because you lose too much trying to do it on your own. If you're trying to do everything on your own in an area that you're not an expert at,
recipe for
better
failure.
off being able to stay focused and in your lane, and have people that you know and trust helping you in the other areas.
I think that's an excellent point. Work within your area of gifting and superpower and skill, and partner and leverage with people who are working in their area of skill and superpower, and be in alignment there. And really in the big picture, you're doing big things for you and for your family, and you have big goals, which I think are big dreams, which I think are super exciting. And what you're doing now is directly leading to those things coming to fruition, which is amazing and incredible. So I think we'll wrap it up there for today. We've almost hit the hour mark, and I think we want to say thanks to everybody for joining us in this episode of the FLF pod. So we hope you found it valuable and insights and inspiration to apply on your journey towards wealth building and creation, and freedom and networking being part of that. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please make sure to subscribe, leave a review, share it with your network, as we believe in the power of network. And for more resources, stay connected with the community and visit our website at j3vc.com. Until next time, just remember, we're with you and for you, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.